and welcome back to redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd. I'm your host Mikey, and in today's tutorial we're going to work on the Toddler Santa hat. This is a really fabulous idea. The designer is Kim Guzman, a friend of mine on Facebook as well, and this is a really neat concept. You will notice that I would have changed the yarn that you see here in the sample, and this is Red Heart Boutique Midnight, and the color is called Radiant, and as you can see the colors are transitioning on its own. I always like to experiment with different yarns to see what the pattern will look like in different colorways. So that's the whole point of these videos that you find on YouTube, is that they're really just templates for ideas that you can do, and of course you can express your own creativity. So let's get started. I want to show you the ins and outs of this free pattern, and I'll put a link in the more information of this video so you can locate the free pattern right away, just in case you prefer to follow the instructions instead of following this video. So let's get started now. So here's the free pattern. I know that some people are really sticklers about writing on their patterns. I'm not one of them. I like to use mine as a worksheet, just like you see here. Now I have it here so that this is a really simple pattern, and when we're working on this, we're going to work from the top of the hat all the way down to the base, just like you see here. So off camera what I'm doing is that I'm recording the number of rows that I'm going around. So you will see in the pattern instructions here that it'll stop at round 6, and then it says round 7 to 21. You're going to increase in the same manner. So essentially what's going to be happening is that we're following what she's asking us to do, and then from 7 to 21 we have to just continually do that. So off camera what I do, and why are all these scraggly marks going all the way down, is that it will help you if you have a sheet on the side, and this will be round number 7, 8, 9 all the way to 21, and then what I have to do here is that I put 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 all the way down on the other side of that. And what that is that when we're looking at here on round number 6, it says that single crochet into the next 4 single crochets and then increase. And then what I've done is that because if we're following the same manner, 7 to 21, we're just constantly following that pattern, and essentially we have round number 7, we have 5 single crochets in a row, and then the increase. Round number 8 we have 6 single crochets before the increase. And so it just helps you be able to follow the pattern, and then you're not questioning yourself as you're working all the way down. Once we get to a certain part of this pattern, we're going to be growing the hat without increasing any stitches any longer, and so from rounds number 22 all the way to 39 we're going to be using the same color, and then the final round of that, number 40, we're going to change it to white, which will be the brim, and then of course the final 5 are going to be the brim that you see on the toddler in the pattern. So this really gives you an indication of what I would do off camera, and these are all the scraggly marks that you find that you can see all over my written pattern. So let's get started. I'm going to show you some really great tips in order to keep count, because you're going to want to keep count, because as soon as you go off by 1 stitch in this pattern you'll change the complete size of your pattern. So let me show you how to be able to follow along really carefully, but not really have to burn any brain cells at the same time. During this pattern you're going to need a white string, or a string that you can clearly see down your stitches, and you'll need to do it about 12 to 15 inches long. What we need to do is this string needs to go from the top of the hat all the way down to the base so that we can keep an eye on it. You can use stitch markers if you wish, and when I turn over the hat I left in my stitch markers just like you see, so you can see that the string is going all the way from the top to the bottom. This is me counting my rows as I'm going along this pattern. So I just left it in. At the end of this I will pull it out, but for tutorial reasons I left it in so that you can clearly see what I'm doing in order to increase my stitches without actually losing count. Throughout this tutorial today I'm going to be using Red Heart with love. I do love hot pink. You know, play with the colors. Just because it's Santa doesn't mean you have to use those. Again, you'll need a string, and then you'll need a 5.5mm crochet hook just to be able to follow along with this as well. If you change the hook size it does change your pattern, so make sure it is 5.5 or a size I. So let's get started. We're going to start at the top of the hat and work our way down. So let's begin. We are going to start off with round number 1, and it says with A means the color, chain 2, 3 single crochet into the second chain from the hook and join with the slip stitch to the first single crochet. So let's begin. We're just going to start off with the slip knot, just like you see, and then of course slip in our hook just like you see. So we're going to chain 2 as it says, so 1 and 2, and it's, essentially we have to create the center top of the ring of the hat. This is where the pom-pom would attach to. So we're going to come to the very first chain, which is 1 over because there was only 2, right? So we have that, and we're gonna single crochet 3 times. So 1, okay, this straggler, just kind of pinch it down on top of it and it will get lost in it, so you don't have to worry about any kind of loose ends hanging at the end. So this will be 2 single crochets, and then we have 3, like just like so. And essentially what I want you to do at this point, this is where I'm gonna ad-lib on the pattern. I'm not gonna do any slip stitching throughout this particular pattern, so any kind of slip stitching that you see, I'm gonna cancel that out. Essentially what I want you to do though for the very first time is that I do want you to slip stitch the first one. So I'm kind of contradicting myself, but I want you to understand that there's gonna be no slip stitching within this project. I'm gonna pull up the string now, and I'm gonna get my white string ready. This will be my stitch marker, and I'm gonna come into the very last stitch before this loop, and I'm gonna pull my string through, and this will indicate to me whenever I go in a complete circle. So I'm just gonna pull it through, just let it dangle out, and then put my hook back in, just like so, and pull it tight. So every time I get back to this particular point here, I know I'm gonna go in a complete revolution, so I can check it off on my list. So let's move along to round number 2. In round number 2 it says to chain 1 and then increase 3 times. So essentially what I'm telling you to do here is that we're not gonna do any slip stitching going forward. So I'm just gonna tell you to kind of skip that chain 1 right now and just go into an increase. So I skipped the chain 1 on all of the instructions going around this hat so that you never see a joining line as you go into each circle. So just come into the next stitch and put in 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2. Let's go into the very next one. You'll see that it'll be kind of folded in front of you there because it is a very tight circle, but of course you know the peak of the hat is tight, and of course then the final one would be right where you put this other yarn in right here. And what we want to do is that we want to put that in, so 2 single crochets, just like you see, and essentially I want you to pull this up, this loop up, and now just grabbing the white string again, pull the white string, just a piece of it, so that it comes out through that. So you want to keep it into the top of the first one and then goes through, and when you saw my line, basically I'm just dragging that line through so I know every time I've gone around. So let's pull this back tight again and move along to round number 3. Round number 3 says to chain 1 and then single crochet into the next single crochet and then increase. Increase, if you look at the special instructions on the top, means that 2 single crochets are inside. Because I am not doing any slip stitching, I'm going to skip the chain 1 in this case, and then I'm just going to immediately go to my very next stitch available, and I'm gonna 1 single crochet. Now the very next one available is the increase, so that'll be 2 in this one. And it says to do that 3 times, so that was one of them. So the next one is a single crochet, and the next one is going to be 2 single crochets inside. So if our math is done right, right where the stitch marker is hanging out of is the very last stitch. So the next one is a single, which is right, and then this where the stitch marker is hanging out, that is definitely the last one in my revolution. So we just need to make sure that we start off our project right so that the counts are right out the hop. So essentially this string is now coming out the back side, so I'm just gonna slip in my hook from the front side into the stitch that's underneath there, and I'm gonna pull that string. So you can really remember that every time you get to the string there's got to be 2 single crochets into that same stitch for almost all 1 to 20. And we just want to make sure we don't pull the string right out of position so that we can follow it along as well. So essentially every time I tell you to do that, that's what you're gonna do. So let's move along to round number 4 next. In round number 4 it says to chain 1 if you're doing the slip stitch, and then single crochet into the next 2 single crochets and then an increase. So essentially if you're following along with me and not doing the chain 1, you can just simply just go to the next one available. So 1 single crochet and then come into the next one for another single crochet, and then finally the third one is 2 single crochets into the same one. So let's repeat that again. So we're gonna go 1 single crochet, the next one is gonna be 1 single crochet, and the next one is gonna be 2 single crochet. And again we're gonna do it again. So then remember what I said, the final one is always gonna be the double. So we have one single crochet, and the final is a double. So we know that our count is right. If your count is off, it does make a difference on the size of the hat for your toddler. And so basically we're on our last one, so that'll be 2 single crochets into there. So essentially we're growing every round from all the way from 0 to 21, I believe, that we're gonna be growing it just in the same fashion by adding 3 stitches to create the point of the Santa hat. So let's move along to round number 5. Before I move up to round number 5, I would just want to point out you should move your stitch marker up one, so just coming through the stitch. See what happens is that you can see this string is coming out toward me, so I'm gonna want to come in from the back side of the stitch that's underneath of the loop and pull that string through. So you will notice on the very first sample that I showed you is that the string looks like it's weaved in and out of the stitches. That's because the next one now it's coming out of the back, so the next one I'll have to come in through the front and pull it forward, and that just gives you an indication on how to work that. So that's ready for round number 5. In round number 5 it says to chain 1 if you're doing the slip stitch, and then single crochet into the next 3 single crochets and then do the increase. What I wanted to tell you right now, I want you to flip this. So we've been working at it and you'll notice that it's pulling a bowl shape away from you. I want you to now do it and just turn it so that the point, see how I just flipped it? It's easier to do it that way instead, and it's easier to see your stitches. So essentially it's asking you to do, if you're chaining 1 and doing a slip stitch, and you'll do that. In my case I'm just gonna go right to the next stitch for a single crochet, the next stitch for a single crochet. So we want 3 single crochets in a row, and then the next one is gonna be your double. I want to show you something right here right now. Every time you have the double from the row below, I know that's very difficult to see, but the second one is always gonna be where the double is. And if I pull out my sample that I had, you can really clearly see that when you look at it, you see how it just looks a little bit different here. That's because this is the double and it's been following all the way through, as you can see. So you will see that on your hat as well, but it's like knitting. It's part of the charm of the hat. It's the only way to do it properly. So essentially every time you get to that double one underneath, this is where it's gonna be double on top. Okay, so let's do that again. So 1, 2, and 3 single crochets in a row, and then the next one is your double. And if you look at it, see 1 and 2 are part of this stitch here, so the second one is the double. So you know, I was thinking to myself when I was doing it, why not do this for all of them? The problem for doing that is that you will forget which one is your actual beginning around, so it's actually kind of redundant to do that. So again we're doing 1, 2, and 3 single crochets, and again this is the final stitch. We can see it through the marker, and again that is where the double exists, and that completes round number 5. And then essentially just move that stitch marker up 1, and we'll meet right back in just a second. So we're just gonna start off with round number 6 now, and essentially what we need to do is just essentially follow the pattern that we have been doing. But I want to give you a little bit of tip here. So this one, let's get started and then I'll give you a tip. So we're gonna do the next 4 single crochets. So I did 1 already, and 2, and 3, and 4. Okay, so the next one then is your 2 in a row, your 2 single crochets into the same one. So what happens if, for example, you run out of stitches, or you have one side that's now starting not to equal the other? So this is 2, 3, and 4. We want to make sure that we do keep account of our stitches, but let's say for example that all of a sudden you realize that one side has 1 stitch less. All you'd have to do is just literally throw in another stitch, and then you'll bring it back in balance. What happens if you have something along the lines where you have too many stitches and you have to reduce one? All you can just do is a single crochet decrease. So what you just need to do in order to do that, so you just pull through and then pull through like this, and then basically you've just made 2 stitches back into 1. You can do minor corrections like that without really being noticeable on this particular pattern. So that's a really great thing about this. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then this is 4. And so then the 5th would be your 2 single crochets, and essentially we're coming back around. So we have this again, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then honestly the 5-1 then is your final that you can see here with the stitch marker. And essentially this is a really easy pattern. So now what we're gonna do is that we're gonna move up to rounds number 7 to 21. I'll get you started and then you can do the rest of the work, and I'll meet you back up when I've got it done for this particular one for myself. So just like I showed you at the beginning of this tutorial, this is my working sheet, and if you need this, just take a just stop the video and you will see it here, and just do all the way from 7 to 21, and then put on the next one 5, which means 5 single crochets in a row, and then just keep 6, 7 all the way down to 19, just like you see, and this will help you keep count. So we're gonna start off with row number 7, and I'm not gonna take you through all of those rows. I'm just gonna get you started, and all the pattern simply means is that we have to continue to grow this in the same manner that we have been doing. So in round number 7 that we're about to start, and we just have to continue along. It says that I have 5 in there according to my worksheet, so this is 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that means that the next one is your increase, and again you will see the two single crochets into the one, so you can clearly see that as well if it's up close and in front of you. So essentially what you need to do now is go from 7 to 21, following the same thing of growing it every time. So for example, round number 8 you will have 6 single crochets in a row before the increase. Round number 9 there will be 7 single crochets, and continue to do that, and we'll meet you back about on round number 21 where we'll finish off, and then we'll start off with round number 22 going all the way to 39. So I've now just completed up to round number 21, and as you can see that there is no slip stitching marks because I have been working in a continuous circle, and that's the advantage of doing that versus slip stitching. I am one of those people that whenever I slip stitch I always end up with this seam that goes down on an angle, and as much as you really want to hide it, it's hard to, especially on a large hat like this. This is a toddler size, but then the slip stitching will go in a complete circle and probably around into a very visible spot of the hat. Again, that's a personal call to you. So essentially now we have to go all the way from round number 22 all the way to 40, and just like I've been marking off on my sheets off camera as I've been working along, I now have rounds number 22 to 40. Number 40 we're going to be switching off the yarn to white, which is the start of the brim, but essentially all you have to do is essentially, if you're following along with what I'm doing, is that you're not going to chain one. You're just going to continually now go all the way around, not adding any more stitches, as you can see, and it will take about 3 to 4 revolutions before you see the hat size finally start to materialize. This is not the full size of the hat. You know, you have another 3 or 4 rounds before the hat stabilizes into the final size in order to fit your toddler. So essentially now rounds number 22 all the way now to 39, please just go in a continuous circle, and every time you get to your stitch marker, just like so, just make sure you check off as you go. So continue now 1 single crochet into each all the way around from rounds number 22 all the way to 39. So I'm now just finishing up round number 39. We're about to start number 40, and if you see the directions, we have to change the color now to the white brim. Now because I've been ad-libbing and there is no slip stitching, essentially we're gonna have a line in our work if I just continue and just change the color. You see how we've just come along and then all of a sudden I've added white? You can do that if you wish, but I'm gonna show you a way to be able to avoid that if that bothers you. I would put that as the back of the hat just so you're aware. So what I would do is that before the slip marker here, the slip stitch or the stitch marker, is that the last 2 stitches I would just slip stitch just like this. And what that will do is that it'll bring this hat back into balance, and then I would fasten that off at this point. So essentially I'm just gonna weave in my ends at this particular point, and again because this is part of the hat area, I'm just gonna weave it right into the stitch work because I know that the white is gonna grab onto it as I come back around. So we're about to start round number 40, and 40 does have the white, and essentially what we need to do is we need to start it up because I still don't want any slip stitching within my work. I still want it to be a nice idea so that you don't ever see it. So essentially what I'm gonna do here is that I'm just gonna form a loop. I'm not gonna form any knots because you'll see it, and essentially where this stitch marker is, which is the last one that you did the slip here, is you're just gonna come in and pull it through, and all I just want you to do is just pull it through one more time. So you're gonna chain and then immediately jump into the next stitch for a single crochet. And essentially what we're gonna do here is this here, because the way that we just attached it, it's gonna come along and equal it, and we're just gonna immediately go right up over top of it. So this is round number 40. This is the last round of all of the entire section, and then we're gonna move up to officially do the brim next. So continue to do a single crochet all the way around this hat for round number 40. So I'm coming all the way back around, and essentially you're gonna run into where I weaved in the edge, and you just wanna be very careful. You just wanna make sure that you get right underneath the marker right there, or that particular straggler, and you want to trap it into position permanently. So it's gonna be all good, so you can safely then trim it. And because of the way that I've attached it here is that when we immediately start onto the next row, because you'll look at the instructions that we have to do 5 more revolutions now of this white, we simply just come into the very first one just like you did. Okay, and what I want to do is I don't want to move up that marker as well, essentially. And so the marker that we've been having all along just makes it easier for us to be able to count our ways around. And essentially we just need to now go around 5 more times, and then we're gonna meet back up where we're gonna just do the final finish off, and then we have a pom-pom to make at the end. And the pom-pom is actually a crochet pom-pom. It's not something that you typically would see, and so we're just gonna simply just keep going around and around 5 more times, and we'll meet back up very shortly, and I'll show you how to finish this off and then start the pom-pom. So we're just coming to the conclusion now of the brim, just like you see, and because I've been ad-libbing with no slip stitching, the final 2 stitches I just want to do a slip stitch 1 and 2, and that'll bring it back into balance in order to finish it off. So let's just do that, and then essentially I'm going to show you how to weave this off so that you will never see the loose ends, especially on a hat like this. And you will need a darning needle. I just want you to pull up just like this, and I've already trimmed my yarn off camera. So essentially we just have our yarn string that we've been crocheting with, and essentially I just want to put my darning needle in, and this is how you would finish it off so that it'd be like really, so you'll never see the edge popping out, especially if a child is wearing this. And essentially I just want to go in the direction from which I came, so I just want to come on the outside. If I come into the inside of this stitch, for example, because that's where I pulled through, it's gonna pull out. So we just want to go along the top edge, just inside of the stitch work, and I want to go about 1 inch or 2, and because the yarn is white, matches this, you can pretty well hide it really good. So just let's pull it through, just pull it nice and snug just like you see, and now I want to come back in the same direction or from where I came. So this is where I came out, so I don't want to go into the same space, I want to go into a different space, because if you go into the same space you'll pull it out because it's exactly the same hole it's coming out of, and essentially we go back into the same direction. And for the final time we're just gonna head back into the other direction, again going in through a different hole area or a different area on your stitch work. Just go back and forth, and essentially because you've gone 3 times now, anybody can pull on this hat and you will never see the loose end come out. So now let's give it a good tug just like you see, and then essentially we can trim off our yarn there. Take this away, and now this here is part of our piece going all the way down the end. So all you have to just do now is just tug on it, and it will pull it all completely out. So essentially now you have finished off your hat, but we're missing something. We still have the top pom-pom to do, and that is coming up next. It's a really simple process. Actually, it's the first time I've ever seen a crochet pom-pom before. So let's move along to the next process. So let's begin the pom-pom area, and the pom-pom, what we have to do is we have to take some white yarn, because the pom-pom is going to be white. So if your pom-pom is not white, you choose the color that you're going to be using, and we just want to spin a little circle like this, a little yarn ball, and essentially this is going to sit inside of the pom-pom. So there's no exact science, it just makes sure that your pom-pom will actually puff out. So let's begin the instructions, and let's start with that next. To begin the pom-pom, it says to chain 2 and then 3 single crochet in the second from the hook. That's exactly the way that we started our hat. So let's begin, and we're gonna do a slip knot first and then come in. So we're gonna chain 2, so 1 and 2, and then coming back to the starting chain we're gonna single crochet 3 more times. So 1, 2, and this straggler you really do want to hide it, so kind of pinch it down to belong with it, and this will be number 3, and we are going to join it with the slip stitch to the very beginning just like you see. So we're just going to pull it through and through. So this one you could use a stitch marker in order to match it, but because the circle is so small I would just kinda, even if you ad-lib it a little bit, it's really not gonna make much of a difference. So let's move along to the next step. With the pom-pom I will be doing the slip stitching, and essentially like I just showed you, so we're gonna chain 1, and now it says to increase 3 times. So essentially in the next few stitches we just want to put 2 single crochets into each. So 1 and 2, and then going into the next one, 1 and going into the next one, just 1 and 2, and then finally the last one, 1 and 2, and then join with a slip stitch to the beginning, one that you started off with, to just grab it a little space. So I've actually never seen a pom-pom done like this before. It's actually good information for a future project. So I'm gonna flip it, so then remember how I flipped the hat forward? I'm gonna flip this one as well. It's just easier to look on the outside going around. So let's move along to the next round. To move up we're just gonna chain 1, and it says to increase 6 times, so that means that the next all the way around is gonna increase. So we're gonna have 2 single crochets into each one going all the way around, 1 and 2, and then 1 and 2, and 1 and 2. It's like aerobics for crocheters. 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, and finally on the last one, 1 and 2, and then we just join it with a slip stitch to the beginning and move up to the next round just like so. In round number 4 we're just gonna chain up 1, and then every single crochet is just gonna get 1 single crochet. So we're at the middle point of your pom-pom, so just 1 single crochet into each. And again, it's very easy really. You can even do cute little cat toys with this. Put some catnip on the inside. I know my cat actually really loves these homemade little gifts. Beats going to the store to buy them, that's for sure, because you know they never play with the ones that you buy at the store. So we're gonna join it with the slip stitch to the beginning just like so, and we're gonna move up to the next round, and you can see a bowl shape is really now starting to take effect. So in the next round we're gonna chain 1, and now we're gonna decrease 6 times. So essentially we're just gonna go into the very first stitch, pull through and hold. We go into the next one, pull through and hold, and then we pull through all 3. So essentially we're making 2 single crochets back into 1. So going into the next and hold, pull through next one and hold, and then pull through all 3. So pull through, pull through, pull through, pull through, pull through, and pull through, and you keep doing that all the way around. So essentially because you're doing this, you're decreasing your circle exactly by half at this point, and then don't forget the final like this, and just join with the slip stitch to the beginning like so. Before you continue now, you're gonna have like a little pocket that will fit inside, and that I'm just gonna pull this string a little looser, and essentially what I'm gonna do now is that I'm gonna put my pom-pom stuff. Remember that we did a circle? Well, we're gonna put that on the inside, and that'll keep the pom-pom from deflating when it's on the hat. So we just want to put it inside the pocket. Get all those stragglers in there so you're not confused which is which. And then essentially just put your hook back in like this, and then we move on to the next round. So the very final round on this is chain 1 and the decrease 3 times. So let's just we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to go into the very first one. Remember, just look for the stitches, not for that stuff that's in the ball, and we're decreasing again. So essentially there were 6 stitches left, so in actual fact we can only do 3 decreases because there's only 6 stitches left. Just like so. So this is our very final. And then we just want to slip stitch it to join. And so what I want to do now is that I want to cut this string so that I can sew it. So I'm going to be a little bit generous on it. I don't need that much, but I'm going to use it anyway. And essentially I just want to pull this back up, just pull that loop through. And we're going to use the same string then to attach it to the top of the hat. Okay, it's now time to attach the ball to the top of the hat. Just get your trusty darning needle out again. And essentially we just want to go into the very tip of the hat and just be able to start pulling it in like so. So we want to go literally inside the ball onto the outside, and then I just want to go back into the ball again. I want to make sure that it stays right and it's not too floppy, so you're going to want to go in and out of this ball and then around different angles of the top of the hat. So you don't ever want to go into that was going into the same space. So I want to kind of come in from a different angle. So then that hat really becomes stabilized with the ball on top. And I just want to go in several times in order to really make it fit. Especially if a child is wearing this, you're really going to want to make this so that it's very easy, or it's very tough to pull off, especially if they're in the playground doing things. And essentially you're just going to want to keep doing that at this point. So I'm going to do the rest of it off camera. We'll meet back up in a second, finalize this video for today. Okay, once you believe that you have it tied on enough, I just want you to take the needle and just go up through the ball on the inside, go all the way through to the top like so. And essentially now you can cut that at the top of the pom-pom, and then any slack will just kind of sink into the ball on the underside and the inside of the ball, and you can shape it to do whatever you want. So this concludes this video for today. This is the toddler size Santa hat. Enjoy this free tutorial. Thank you so much to redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd for being able to share this with you today. Until next time, I'm Mikey on behalf of the Crochet Crowd as well as redheart.com.